Hello everyone, welcome to another demo scene video. Today we're going to talk about randomized generative content inside demos, which was an interesting concept, a different way to experience the demo that plays slightly different every time you watch it. There are a handful of them, so if you want to watch them, there's a playlist below. You can just click and go through all of them instead of hearing me ramble, but I'm going to try to walk through each one of them and explain how they are different in any shape or form from the traditional demo format. So the first demo that I am aware of that has randomized content in some way is Super Luxus Package of Love by MFX, and you will notice that MFX has released a lot of stuff with randomized content throughout the years. So this was just a precursor. It won the Elevator 2000 demo compo. In 2001 there was a 64k entry at Yoskal called Ran by Fusion, and I think it features different scenes every time you run it. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I believe that's the main difference. The scenes themselves are the same, but the order is changed. I forgot to mention +1 -1 by Not Equal. That was released at Magazine Post in 2002. A very big compo, had over 50 entries. And this one was a very abstract piece with a lot of generative elements in it, which was quite interesting and new at the time. In Assembly 2002, there were a bunch of Australian sceners visiting, and they released this quick hack called Poetry. It's sort of making fun of scene poetry, where they randomly generate different words to fit what's on the screen somehow. And so yeah, it's more generative poetry than generative demo, but it fits this context of a playlist. In 2002, at State of the Art, we had A Deepness in the Sky by MFX, where the camera movements are randomized. From certain time to time, it changes to a randomly placed camera within certain limitations. So there are some limits to what it can do or what it can be expected to do, but it's still somehow generative. Which is an interesting take to doing generative material. You figure out a window of where things can fall into, and then if you do that with enough parameters, you can get some surprising effects in some shape or form. Moving on, we had Tomthumb by the Planet of Leather Moomins, which was originally an animation made by Statics, and he wanted to do everything generative on the thing. He coded it to be generative, and then he would do renders of it and find a few decent seeds, and then use that to submit it to an animation comp or film competition. I'm not sure what was submitted into anymore. A few years later, this was actually released. The source was released, and there was some effort to put this working real time, so this can actually be done real time nowadays. Although there were some things that were assembly hard-coded and stuff like that would make things difficult to actually have an executable of the whole thing going in today's standards. But it's a very interesting take. Another entry that also had a smart caveat to it was We Have Molotov by MFX. It was released in 2003. It got second place on the combined demo compo, and it uses your browser cache to show you random content. So they go to the directory where usually your browser puts images, and they just use those assets to throw into the screen, and you end up wondering, oh, why is this featuring so much porn on the demo today? I didn't know this was allowed, and it turns out it's because it's going to your browser history and checking all the porn that you've been seeing lately. So that's an interesting take. There were another demos that used that later on. We'll talk about them later. Glitch by Kewlers also had some generative randomization going. Every time you ran it was slightly different, but pretty much the generic structure was the same. In 2004, the Alternative Party actually opened a compo called the Dynamic Demo, and it had quite a few entries, 7 on the first tier that was released. Was pretty good, and it became a standard for the Alternative Party every year. So 3 entries that I would like to highlight from this year. The first one is L'Acte Prétentieux by MFX. It got 3rd place, and I think the sound would be slightly glitched and reverbed. It had a few effects applied to it in random ways to make it more artistic. So it's an interesting demo. Micery by Bandwagon Fit got 2nd place. I don't really recall this one anymore, so I will have to pass, but it looks to be about mice. And then Juustomaariageneraattori by Exile Studios, where the music would be different every time it would be played, and there would be 2 guys commenting on the music. It loses a bit in translation. It's more for Finnish people, but it was an interesting concept nonetheless. Next year, Alternative Party 2005 also had quite a bunch of dynamic demo entries. K by Kooma got 3rd place. Dynamicro by Ananasmurska got 2nd place, and in 1st place MFX again with Brock 1500, which is mostly done by Droid, and it features some generative dynamic stuff. I think it would also react to sound, if I'm not mistaken. He then started using those effects for VJ stuff, the effects used on this demo, if I'm not mistaken. Assembly 2006 had The Promised Land by Traction, which was a bit of a joke demo, or self-entitled joke demo by Preacher himself. It was mostly generated or generated poetry, making fun of scene poetry once again. In 2007, we had the return of Alternative Party. I think they had a hiatus in 2006 and didn't organize the party, and there was only 1 entry for the dynamic demo compo, and it was Dynamo by Adapt. So yeah. The next year there were a few more dynamic demo entries. The one that is most relevant is Karate 3D Plus by Byterapers. I guess making fun of Karate 3D or Karate 3, I don't know. It has some generative stuff in there as well. In 2009, still Alternative Party, we had 2 entries. The main one was Bad News by Kooma, where you had this robot that would be reading news from an RSS feed. Vern, who coded this, was also involved with the main Finnish news site and had made some readers or interactive readers that were used, I believe, in television to read the news. So he made this alternative version that was dynamic, and you could feed it different URLs and have the robot do some stuff, and it was a bit of a darker, grittier version of the original, hence the name Bad News. It was a very interesting demo, got a lot of praise when it came out. I made some of this kind of stuff as well. I'm very much into generative and randomized stuff. Some of the more it's not known. It's one of the more generative stuff that I did was pgen by minimalartifact. Was released in Assembly 2011. Actually, it was not shown at Assembly 2011 because they thought this was a slideshow or a demo that was not working properly, so they disqualified it. Well, it was working properly, but the idea was to generate the image and then show it while some sounds are also being randomly generated and played. So it's different every time you play, or slightly different every time you play, although the main baseline is the same. In 2011, the Alternative Party happened again. The winner dynamic demo was Armed Response by MFX. MFX once again doing some generative stuff. I did another intro using generative stuff called the Leviathan Sun. Was released for Payback 2013. Takes a different seed, random seed, and the visuals and the music both are slightly different depending on the seed. So you can have a lot of different stuff. Some have vocoders, some don't, some have strobing lights, some just have weird shapes. So very big window of possibilities. And also in 2013 there was Concord by Ümlaüt Design, made by Gargai, which was a bit controversial at the time because the Gargai didn't want people to do video captures of it and put it on YouTube because it would be against the concept of being dynamic. People would be experiencing one single version of it and not the whole potential of the demo. He eventually caved and now it is on YouTube nowadays. But yeah, it's an interesting debate that you can have. Should dynamic demos be presented as video form? My personal opinion is that they should, because you want a way to still perceive them, as long as you make it explicit that it's a specific seed or a specific version, depending on how you calculate the randomness. I like to calculate the randomness on a seed so you can still pass the seed to the program and have exactly the same thing being shown. But other people don't like that approach and prefer just to be randomized by, you know, current time or something like that. Another demo that I forgot about links back to using your browser's cache. It's called Mew by Still, was released at Revision 2014, and yeah, has some great effects and uses your browser's cache to fill up images and texts on the screen without your consent. So yeah, you can see the advertisements that I've been getting on my browser history. So yeah, that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed this list. If you know of any other demos that are dynamic or randomized in nature, let me know and I'll add it to the playlist afterwards. Otherwise, have a great day. See you next time. Bye bye everyone. Take care.